Shalom and welcome to all of you who came into this beautiful space, physical space of prayer at Darchei Noam, and to all of you who are in your sweet homes on Zoom, connecting to one another and to us here as we linked by our tradition and our customs and love of this community. This is a wonderful Shabbat. Every Shabbat is wonderful in its own way, but particularly this Shabbat. It's Shabbat right before we move towards Rosh Hashanah, and we also have a delight to celebrate Rabbi Hirsh, who has been part of this community for 40 years, which is pretty awe-inspiring moment, and we will mark it later on in the service and throughout the service. And at the moment we prepare ourselves, no, it's not COVID, prepare ourselves for this awakening of our body and soul. So welcome again, and we're on page 153 with Berchot HaShachar as we acknowledge the wonder of creation.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim, hama'avir shana min ha'tmuna mi'afapai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim, hanoten ha'sechvivin ha'lechvim ben yom ve'layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim b'ro'ak ha'aretz ha'lamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim ba'keach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim zokev kfufim. Blessed are you, the way, our God, life of all the worlds, who makes firm a person's steps. Blessed are you, the generous, our God, life of all the worlds, who acts for all my needs. Blessed are you, the mighty one, our God, life of all the worlds, who girds Israel with strength. Blessed are you, the beautiful, our God, life of all the worlds, who crowns Israel with splendor. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim she'asani betzamo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim she'asani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim she'asani Yisroel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu chei haolamim hanoten layav koach. We conclude this portion on page 163. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzat adam bechachma u'baravo. Nekavim nekavim chalolim chalulim gahalu yvyadu lifnei chisech vodecha. She'im yipatech echad, mehem o yisatem echad, mehem אי-אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופך ובשר, ומהפליא לעשות.
And we are now on page 165. My God, the soul you gave me is pure. now continue on page 177. Page 181. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ha'el ha'av ha'rachaman, hamulal befi hamo. Yachid cheo alamim, melech meshubach umfo'ah, areyat shemo hagadol. Baruch atah Adonai, melech mehulam, batishbachot. We continue on page 209. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בחינוך, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי בחינוך. We continue on page 215.
Oy me
Turn now to the top of page 241. Nilech an Shabbat varecha, und varecha Shem kodshecha kamur David. Borchi nafshi l'Adonai v'chok rava et Shem kodsho. Ha'el b'tatzimur zecha, ha'gadobi v'shemecha, ha'gibor la'netzach v'norah b'norotecha. Ha'melech ha'yoshef ha'kiseram v'niso. Shochenot maharom v'kadosh mo. V'chahat uvrenenu tzarikim baron l'sharim navatehilo. V'fi sharim titro mahama. Uv'devrei tzarikim tibaroch. Uv'ilshana chasidim tikadash. Uv'kerev groshim titala. Uv'makalot rivevot amcha bet Yisrael. Page 243. We continue silently. Yishtabach shimecha lahad makenu. Berachot ve'odavot me'atav yahad olam baruch atah Adonai. Nyamalak arabedish bachot, nyalawod adon niflawod, habocher b'shirei zimra melech olamim. Page 245. Yikara ve'yitkada shemerabah. Be'amad ivrachnutev yamlich malchutem b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayedecho bet Yisrael b'galav yismahan korif imeru amen Yehi shmer Rabba mevorach ve'olam lo mehomaya yitbarach Yiparach v'yishtabach v'pahar v'tromam v'yitnase v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmeru kurusha v'rechu l'chelo mekaberachata v'shirachata tushmechata v'nechemata da'amira me'amo Vimaru. Amen. I now invite you all to rise in person or spiritually as we turn to page 247 for the call to morning prayer, the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai amevoru Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam V'Od. Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam V'Od. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yasser ha'or u'vorech choshech Naseh shalom u'vorech hakol. And you may be seated. We turn now to page 265. Tiparach tzurenu makin v'go aleinu. Kulam avim, kulam berurim, kulam giburim. V'chulam asim avir haaretz hakanam. V'chulam barchim b'yam b'kedusha v'tahara. B'shirav zemeram v'harchim, u'mshabchim u'faharim, u'maritzim u'mahakdishim u'mamlichim. Et Shem Abel HaMelech HaGadol HaGibor v'Yanor HaKadoshu. V'cholam mekablim aleihem. המלכות שמיים זרעכם מזרעכם וכולם מקבלים עליהם. המלכות שמיים זרעכם מזרעכם וכולם מקבלים עליהם. המלכות שמיים זרעכם מזרעכם וכולם מקבלים עליהם. המלכות שמיים זרעכם מזרעכם. ונונים יבל שוזל הזלק ישלוט רחם בנחת רוח. בשפה ורבין עמו. קדושה כולם כאחד, עונים וערים בהירו. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. ועפן וחר הקודש בראש גדול, מנסים למצרפים, למצום משבחים יאמרים. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, לאה ברוך רימות איתנו. Page 269. המחדש כתובו בכל יום תמיד, מעשה בראשית כאמור, לעושה אורים גדולים גדולם חסדו, אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכח לנו במהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות. We continue together on page 273. Let us join together in person on the virtual front with a rousing rendition of Ahava Rabbah. Please join. Ahava Rabbah haftanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chamla gdola v'tera, Chamata aleinu. Avinu makenu, bavor avotenu v'himotenu, shebaruchu v'cha, Avinu makenu. V'at lamedem chukei chayim, ken techanenu tlamdenu, ken techanenu utlamdenu. Avinu, Havarachaman, Hamarachem, Rachem Aleinu. Avinu, Havarachaman, Hamarachem, Rachem Aleinu. V'tem b'lichibenu lehavinu lechaskil, lehavinu lechaskil. Lishmaho lilmod lelahamed, Lishmar v'lachasot u'lekahayem, את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך, תלמוד תורתך באהבה, והרננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש ולא ניכלם ולא ניכשל לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא פתחנו נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. והביאנו לשלום יבר כנפות הארץ. And collectively we do collect together, individually, the four corners of our talit like the four corners of the earth. ותוליכנו כמיד לארצנו, כי יחבל על ישועתו, וקרבתנו לשולחן גדול סלע ביחמת, להודות לך ויחדך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך וכל נפשך וכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם בשיטתך בביתך ובלכתך ובדרך ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להודע ידיך, והיו לתותבות בין עיניך, וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Continuing solidly on pages 283 and 285. להיות לכם לאלוהים אני, אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
And this is a reading that I've selected for us this morning from Marge Piercy, The Art of Blessing the Day. And many of you have this lovely book on your bookshelf, and if not, I strongly recommend it. It's been out for a while, but every time I come across it, I do find these lovely, lovely nuggets that I enjoy sharing with you. And then good poem is something you can stash away, and then you return to it, and you are in a different place yourself, and then it speaks to you in this lovely spirited manner. And it's an Amida, and it's called On Our Feet We Speak to You. We rise to speak. A web of bodies align like notes of music. Bless what brought us through the sea and the fire. We're caught in history like whales in polar ice. Yet you have taught us to push against walls, to reach out and pull each other along, to strive to find the way through if there is no way around, to go on, to utter ourselves with every breath against the constrictions of our fear, to know ourselves as the body born from Abraham and Sarah, born out of rock and desert, to reach back through 200 arches of hips, long dust, carrying their memories inside us, to live again in our life. Isaac and Rebecca, Rachel and Jacob, Leah. We say words shaped by ancient use like steps worn into rock. Let us and carry each other along. Let holiness move in us. Let us pay attention to its small voice. Let us see the light in others and honor that light. Remember the dead who paid our way here dearly, dearly, and remember the unborn for whom we build our homes. Praise the light that shines before us, through us, and after us. And let us say,
Amen.
Amen. We continue with preliminary brachot on page 291, and then we're going to rise for the Amida on page 290. 295. Thank you. We continue.
Tilot li Elayon barachum vorach, Moshe uMiriam uvnei Yisroel echanu shera, besimcha haraba ve'amru cholam, michamocha ba'elim Adonai, mikamocha nedar b'kodesh, Norat Elot, Nosefer, Shirach Shashibchu Guli, Leshimcha Hasefatayam, Yachad Kulam, Noduvehim Lecho, Ve'ahamero, Adonai Meloch Le'alam V'Oed, Tzor Yisroel, Koma be'ezrat Yisroel, Uvedechinu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisroel, Go aleinu, Adonai tzvaot shemo, Kedosh Yisroel, Baruch atah Adonai, God Yisroel. We continue with our Amidah, beginning on page 295. Adonai sefatai tiftach, Ufi yagit tehilotecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, האל העליון, גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכה חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי כל חי ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומציל אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, לשני עפר מחמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך. מלך ממית ומחייך ומצמיח ישוע ונאמן אתה לי חיות כוחי ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי כוחי. Continuing with the Kedusha on page 303. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אתה בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך, וקרא זה אל זביח המהר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך על הארץ כבודו. אז בקורש גדול, הדבר חזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים למצרפים, למתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומך מכרנו, תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך, מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתקדש ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, תתקדש ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדבר לנצח נצחים, וייננו תירנו מלכותך כדבר עמו בשירי עוזך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גדלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושכחך אלוהינו מפינו לימוש לעולם ועד. כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. And as we customarily do, we will take a few moments for personal time, personal thoughts, and reflections before we join together with Lenka for the Birkat HaShalom. טוב קדוש רחמך, וימלכם קדוש מחזרך, מעולם קיווינו לך, ויעל כולם יברך, ויתרומם שמך מלכנו תמיד עולם ועד. וכל החיים ידעו חסר לו, ויחללו את שמך בהמחת, אבל ישועתנו וזרועתנו סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך הוא לכו, נוח להודות.
And now, as is our custom, we will extend our talitot virtually or physically right here. And we are now on page 319. Eloheinu ve'Eloi avoteinu ve'emotenu, bרכנו בברכה המשולשת המורה, ופיארתנו בניו כאמור. יברכך אדוני
Shemo Shalom. Page 381. Yikara v'ikara shemeraba be'alamari v'rachariti v'amlich makode b'chayachoni mechon achayrecho b'disra b'galav isman kari v'imro. Amen. Yehesh merabba mevoroch ve'olam lo mechamaya yibarach yibarach v'ishtabach v'ba v'yitrama v'yinaseh v'yirah v'level l'ashmer kurisho b'recho le'ela minka b'chada v'shirata tishbechata v'nechamata raminam b'yama v'yimro. Amen. Tikabat tzarana v'rhancho b'et Yisra kadama v'hanu v'shma v'yimro. Amen. Yehesh l'marama mishemayo v'chaim aleinu v'alko Yisrael v'yimro. Amen. Nase shalom b'imramaho v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'alko Yisrael v'alko yoshvei tevel v'yimro. Amen. And you may be seated.
Shabbat Shalom and welcome, and the sanctuary is filling up, and you can feel the energy and excitement as we're approaching our Torah service. Our Parnasid this morning, Dan Rosa, welcome. We're so happy you're here and to help us lead this portion of our celebrative Shabbat as we acknowledge and cherish our dear Rabbi Hirsh, and we continue with Torah learnings and study. Welcome.
Shabbat Shalom. This week we're going to be reading from Parsha Nitzavim. You still have time to pick up a chumash if you want. You should have also picked up your announcement sheet, which will provide you with the page numbers for the Torah reading when we get to it. And a reminder of our COVID protocols. Those coming for Aliyot will be going to the podium on the far right, my far right. And we are continuing with masking and social distancing to the extent that we can. And I'm going to invite Kathy Lowinger to come forward to help us with the processional.
And our Torah service begins on page 383. Ein kamoch v'loim Adonai, v'ein k'mahasecha, machudecha machod kol olamim, u'memshotecha b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai melech le'olam va'ed. Adonai os le'amo yiten, Adonai yavarech et amo v'shalom, af harachamim, netiv avirtzonecha ha'etzion, tivnech amat Yerushalayim, Kivecha levabatachnu melech aram v'nisa Adon haolamim. I would ask you to rise as we turn to page 385, and the ark is opened. Vayehi ben Saharon vayomer Moshe Kumo Adonai ve'afutzu oivecha ve'chanosu mesanecha mipanecha ki mitzion tetzei Torah ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai Mirushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisroel, Bigadush Adon. You alone I place my trust into your holy and precious name. I call out praises, and we join together the bottom paragraph, page 387. Be'yanarochetz v'lishme kadisho, kadisha yakira, anahamahartu hushbechan, be'yanarochetz, Be'yanarochetz v'lishme kadisho, kadisha yakira, anahamahartu shbechan, yeravaka hadamach, tetzivtach libi behoiraita, V'tahashli mishalin dehelibi, v'lihi badechol amach Yisrael, letov l'chayin, v'helihi shlaham, Amen. We join together on page 393, where momentarily we will recite the Shema responsively. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. echad Eloheinu, gadol Adonenu, kadosh shemo. Echad Eloheinu, gadol Adonenu, kadosh shemo. Gadol Adonai ti, oneramema shemo yachedov. Ramemo, Ramemo, Adonai Eloheinu, v'yishtachavu, la'adam haraglav hakadoshu. Ramemo, Ramemo, Adonai Eloheinu, v'yishtachavu, le'hare kodsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. And you may be seated.
In the dunce moment of our service, we learn. And it is my pleasure to bring forward our Darshanit this morning, Esther Enken, who will enlighten us and ground us in our sacred text. So Esther, welcome, and Shabbat Shalom. In terms of where, I think you can use this microphone, I think...
Yes.
On that microphone, because it'll be the aliyot, and they won't be taking the mask off.
Oh, good.
All right. So before I begin my devar, I just, I hope you'll indulge me for a minute, because I look over at those beautifully vibrant red chrysanthemum, dahlias, dahlias, and I have to tell you a story. They're here by the grace of our generous garden guru, Desiree, but she has been my garden guru, and those chrysanthemums, their provenance is my father's garden in Montreal 40 years ago. They've traveled to Hamilton, Vancouver, back to Toronto, and finally, I never had, my sister-in-law has grown them for years. I finally, with Desiree's coaching, didn't kill them, and they are vibrant and beautiful. So Dad, Shabbat Shalom. So, I am honored to be delivering this Devar Torah on a Shabbat when we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Rabbi Richard Hirsh's presence at Darchei Noam. Richard, wherever you are on that screen, thank you for all your insightful teaching, encouragement, and leadership. And in your honor, I really tried to do a Devar that was 10 things you needed to know about Parshat Nitzavim. However, it really gave me an insight into how hard it is to do, so I leave the list to the master. But in that spirit, here are 2 things I would like you to tell you about this week's Parsha. 1, Judaism survives and thrives because the Torah is uniquely ours in every generation. 2, Nitzavim is a guide to Teshuvah. In this Parsha, the end is very near, the end of the month of Elul, when we have worked on our own weaknesses, our transgressions, and have thought about how we might do better, be better. The end of the cycle of the Torah reading is close. There are only 3 Parshiot left to go. This is the end of the 7 readings of comfort as we approach Rosh Hashanah tomorrow night. Rashi tells us that Nitzavim occurs on the last day of Moshe's life, and he knows that his end is coming. How powerful are those words then, his dying words, as he continues to instruct the new generation? How powerful is his desire to leave them with the best advice, the best instructions to create a future for them, and for all time, for us. Nitzavim takes its name from its first line, Atem Nitzavim Hayom Kolchem Lifnei Adonai Elohechem. You stand this day, all of you, before your God, it goes on to say, you tribal heads, you elders and you officials, all the men of Israel, you children, you women, even the stranger within your camp, from woodchopper to water drawer, to enter into the covenant of your God Adonai. I make this covenant with its sanctions, not with you alone, but both with those who are standing with us this day and those who are not with us here this day. Sound familiar? Indeed, Ramban says this is a repetition of Sinai. It is a chance for a new generation to make a commitment to the relationship with God and Torah. We are part of this moment as well. For we were not there that day, yet we stand in a line created at that moment. We are part of an eternal conversation. Abarbanel, the 15th century Iberian scholar, says that the word used here for stand, nitzavim, is used instead of umdim, because it has a different meaning and connotation. It implies, he says, making yourself available for the exchange of ideas. Let's say that again. We are part of this covenant, this relationship with God, and we are available for an exchange of ideas. What a concept. In fact, it's quite chutzpahdik, really. Those Israelites showed up to have a conversation with God. The Torah truly belongs to all of us in each age and stage of life. We exchange ideas through time and space with the rabbis in Jerusalem and Babylonia, with medieval scholars, and with scholars alive today. When my son was about 10 years old, he asked me one of those questions that sort of knock you back on your heels and you go, and you really have to think. How come, he inquired, I guess he was reading some book about Titans, no one believes in Greek gods anymore, but we still have the Torah and they're still Jews? I think I've just cited the answer. Our ongoing dialogue makes our texts and teachings as alive today as they were for those water carriers and woodchoppers who stood with Moses. So how do we pull this off? What's required of us? Moshe tells the people that day, "For this commandment that I command you today is not beyond your understanding, nor is it far away. It is not in heaven, nor in the seas beyond our reach, for the word is very near to you. Carry it with your mouth and with your heart." To me, these are some of the most resonant and powerful words in Torah. This is mine. It requires me to internalize, to find meaning, to be available to listen and exchange ideas. That's no small ask. Rabbi Justin Goldstein points out in his essay, Torah is Near You, that these words from Dvarim imply that the concept of Torah is perpetually relevant, meaningful, and accessible. He asks, so how can this be when so much of its content, especially some of its seemingly irrational religious requirements and prohibitions, feel so out of touch to many contemporary Jews? And remember where women came in that list of who was there, like not so good, right? So that's my editorial comment. It's not because it is ancient or holy. It is holy because there is a chain of transmission from one generation to the next, supplying relevant meaning. I think Mordechai Kaplan would approve. Rabbi Diane Kohler-Esses expresses it this way: the tradition is not fixed, quite the contrary. It is our very active and receptive listening that gives this text its meaning and its very sanctity. The text gains its kedusha, its holiness, from those in every generation who read it and add their voices to the endless sacred conversation about what this all means. We await revelation, and yet revelation is right here, precisely where we stand. And so here we stand, as they did, listening to Moshe's words. He goes on to tell them they will sin. He refers to concealed acts, sins committed by a person in secret. He predicts that Israel will lose its way, will be exiled, will suffer. But he gives a promise of repentance and restoration. He tells us we can choose life. That is not so hard because we have the capacity to have holiness in our hearts and minds. It is not in heavens, but right inside us. This brings me to the second theme of the Parsha, one that couldn't be more timely as we return here tomorrow to observe Rosh Hashanah, and that is the idea of teshuvah. The root of teshuvah is shuv, and it appears 8 times in verses 1 through 10 in chapter 30 of Deuteronomy. In a woman's commentary, the editor points out the words hold several different meanings, all of which exemplify an internal process of change and transformation. return from the bad ways, regret, leaving the evil deeds behind, changing the way of life, and finally approaching God in a close relationship. And if you can't get your mind around approaching God, how about approaching a state of growth, comfort, peace with yourself and those you love? Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik, the modern American Talmudist and philosopher, said teshuvah is a circle. So in the very first step away is the possibility of coming back. He says mistakes and selfish behavior can be the building blocks of personal growth. And I would say, dealing with self-recrimination, doubt, and fear are on that list. If we can see this as a journey, as a circle, as a way to return to ourselves with insight, with growth, and with forgiveness, it is, as the poet said, in the cracks where the light comes in. Our tradition tells us that the journey is inside us. You don't cross the sea, you don't seek far and wide, but instead in our hearts and minds lies the return, the forgiveness, and the holiness. The Kotzker rabbi was once asked, "Where is God?" He replied, "God is everywhere you let him in." And the poet T.S. Eliot wrote, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." It is not in heaven, it is not beyond the sea. May you find that place of holiness. Shana Tova U'Mituka.
Beautiful words. Thank you, Esther, and such a wide spectrum. We've traveled with you for centuries and arrived here on this morning at 864 Shepherd and in every little sanctuary of your own creation. So we continue with Torah reading and celebrations.
The Torah reading, the listings in our announcement sheet may not be correct, and I'm not sure about the download sheet that people were able to download.
Don, actually, I'll give a little explanation.
Okay.
So what you are reading in the supplement sheet actually acknowledges our normal shlish that we read. And in fact, for the last few parshiot, generally speaking, we will read, because of their short length, we'll read the entire parsha. Even in the format of triennial cycles that we normally follow for longer parshiot. Having said that, of course, during this unique time, and with the Zoom audience in mind, of course, we are shortening all of our Torah readings, and so we are literally reading the middle third. And so our reading today is actually going to begin in Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 30, verse 1. Now, the page numbers will be very close. So if it says 862 in Hertz, it's 862 or 863. Birn Bram, it says 323, it'll be 323 or 324. Etz Chaim, 1144 or 1145. So you should be able to find your way. Devarim, Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 1.
Thank you. Okay, so for our first Aliyah, we're going to call David McKee forward. V'yazor v'yagin v'yoshia l'chocha hosim bo v'nomar amen hakol avu kodele l'cheinu utnu chavod l'torah na la'amod David ben Avram Basar Aliyah Harishana Baruch Shenatan Torah Le'mo Yisrael b'kedushato v'yatem ha'kikim Adonai v'yichem v'yimchuchem hayom.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kirvanu La'avodato V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Amen. Ve'ayah ki yavo halecha kol advarim ha'ele habracha ve'haklala asher natati lefanecha v'ashevota levavecha bechol hagayim asher dichacha Adonai Elohecha shamo ושבתו אדוני אלוהיך ושמעת בקולו ככל אשר אנוכי מצווך היום אל תאהב בניך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ושב אדוני אלוהיך את שבורך וריחמך ושב וקיבצך מכל העמים אשר יביצך אדוני אלוהיך שמה אם יד נחך בקצה השמיים משם יקבצך אדוני אלוהיך ומשם ייקחך וביאך אדוני אלוהיך אל הארץ אשר ירשו אבותיך וירשת והיטיבך וירבך מאבותיך ומעל אדוני אלוהיך את לבבך ולבב זרעך לאהבו את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך למען חייך.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נתן בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. And for our second Aliyah, we're going to call Toby Rose and Les Klein together. Nala Amod, Teba HaShabbat Yaakov Fevo Halevi, Begut Rezel, Netit Yahu Ben Harav Yoel Lechaya Sarah Lialiyah Hashniya.
We continue in Devarim, chapter 30, with verse 7.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirvanu lavodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. ונתן אדוני אלוהיך את כל ההלכות האלה על ידיך ואסונך אשר רפוך ואתה תשוב ושמעת בקול אדוני ועשית כל מצוותיו אשר אנוכי מצווך היום ויותירך אדוני אלוהיך בכל מעשיך ידיך בפרי בטנך ובפרי בעמדך ובפרי אדמתך לטובה כי ישוב אדוני לסוס עליך לטוב כאשר שש על אבותיך כי תשמע בקול אדוני אלוהיך לשמור מצוותיו וחוקותיו הכתובות בספר התורה הזה כי תשוב אל אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We'll pause now for a moment for Misha Barak for those in need of healing. We have a large list on our announcement sheet, which is also available through our members portal. And I will ask the congregation to please rise in body or spirit. May all those in need of healing, those providing their care, be blessed with wisdom, stamina, loving kindness, and communal support. Guard them beneath the wings of your Shekhinah, sending them comfort and relief speedily in our days. Blessed are you, source of life, who helps us to bring light where there is darkness and healing where there is brokenness. May all be granted faith, hope, and refuah shlema. We pray for healing for those who have been affected by COVID-19. We pray that those who are healthy remain so and that this crisis will end so that lives will be spared. And let us all say, Amen. Please be seated. And for our third aliyah, we are going to call Pam Glass. Na la'amod liba bat fega v'moshe li'aliyah hashli'shit.
Our reading continues, Dvarim chapter 30 with verse 11.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Olam Vaed.
Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu Baruch et Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirvanu levodato, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch et Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki hamitzvah zot asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom lo niflechet hi mimecha v'lo rechoka hi lo v'shamayim hi lemor mi yale lanu hashamayim avikacheha lanu v'yashmienu ata v'nasena v'lo me'ever layam hi lemor mi yaver lanu el verayom v'yikacheha lanu v'yashmienu ata v'nasena כי קרוב אליך הדבר מאוד בפיך ובלבבך לעשותו.
Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chai olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. There were two announcements I meant to make before we started the Torah service, the Torah reading. So I'm going to make those announcements now, if you'll forgive me. First, I see on our announcement sheet that Marcy and Stan Tepner just welcomed their first grandchild. So Mazel Tov to Marcy and Stan. That's wonderful. And I also wanted to do a shout out to Jonathan Lazar and his mother Libby Kuman. These are our newish members that we met during COVID on our Zoom services, who are actually members of Darchei Noam. And today is Jonathan's birthday. So Mazel Tov, Jonathan, we're thinking of you. And now I will do the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgada v'yitgada shemei rabba v'yamad yivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayei chon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael b'hagala b'zman karim v'yimeru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach le'olam lo me'omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalo shmei dekudesha le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata dahamin ramiyama v'yimeru amen. Now our Maftir Aliyah should be Deuteronomy 30, verse 18.
Correct. We're just going to move a few verses ahead to the final three Pesukim of this Parsha, beginning correctly on chapter 30, verse 18.
And well, we are not going to have a Haftorah today, but we are reading Maftir, and I'm going to invite Margaret Levendal-Zabar to come forward for the Aliyah. Na la'amod, Margalit, bat Ruth Vitzi, la Maftir.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Borach Olam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Kirvanu Lavatov Venatan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Higarti lachem hayom ki yavo tovedun lo tarichun yamim mahalav mahasherat haover hayarden lavo sham ale rishtaha hayedoti vachem hayom el hashamayim v'daharetz החיים והמוות נתתי לפניך הברכה והקללה ובחרת בחיים למען תחיה אתה וזרעך לעבור אדוני אלוהיך לשמוע בקולו דווקא בו כי חייך ויורך עמך לשבת על האדמה אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיך לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת לו
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Now we are going to invite Mark Machin and Gilda Jubas to come forward for the Hagba and Galila. And once the Torah is dressed, we're going to let Mark place it on the reading table because of the next section, so he doesn't have to hold it sitting, so he'll be able to enjoy the tribute that is coming. So I'll ask the congregation to please rise.
וזאת התורת עץ חיים היא למוח הזיקימה בתוכי המאושר ידה דה 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 yada da da yada da 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 yada da 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 once again yada da da yada da 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 yada da 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 yada da da yada da 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 yada da 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 da. I'm having you remain standing because the Torah is going to be transported to the table momentarily. And one more chorus. Ya da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Ya da da da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. And now for some Darchei Noam trivia. Do you know who was the original source of that melody? No, it's not yours truly. Rabbi Tina. She has many gifts, many talents indeed.
So very sweet, Rab. Thank you. Just in case you wonder what was kind of this, a bit of a,
Thank you very much. It's perfect.
arrangements with the Torah, and as you can tell, it has a light cover. And those of you who were with us for Slichot and know from from year to year, we dress our Torahs. First on Slichot, first Torah is dressed in white, and then we change cover for all of them and keep it. Thank you. You're welcome to sit down. We're good. And then we keep it, wearing and dawn in white till all the way through Simchat Torah. So the covers, and especially this cover, and it is exquisite because it's a cover within a cover, so it has really Torah, such a lovely Torah message. You can unbutton this piece. It's, the color the cover is white, and it has the photographs of family that was so generous in creating this. But what else? It's beautifully made. And what makes a garment beautiful is what is it like on the inside. If you go shopping for a good suit or a dress, the first thing you do is turn it inside out. And you know immediately what the garment is worth. You don't even need to look at the tag, right? So this Torah has an undergarment, and it hangs very nicely, the Torah cover, but it also means that you have to negotiate the manner with which it falls. So we actually had taking extra moments during Slichot to make sure we can manage this. We did that. Then there was a rehearsal for one of our upcoming bar mitzvah. We also worked with the undergarment of the Torah, and this morning as well. So, but it is on the table, and layers upon layers upon layers, as our Torah gives us this message of complexity and richness, as well as community that organizes itself and grows and develops from this small group of fellowship that feels and thinks along the lines, learns, and then grows. That does not happen without a deep connection of souls and like-minded people. It is also happens because there is a leadership that works very closely and aligned in these crucial moments of evolution of this community especially. So this is a moment where we've been waiting for a long time, and had COVID not conspired against us and so forth, so we would have been all in person. And dear Richard, I will speak to you some more, but I'm accessing your and Barbara's face through this skillful device, and I know you're here on the screen as well. But so there is a service within a service as a Torah cover we've discovered, and it is my pleasure to ask Sylvia Hunter, our president, to give us an overview of this portion of the service. So, dear President, from your home, dear partner in the sacred work, may I ask you to take over, and this is our president, Sylvia Hunter.
Thank you, Rabbi. So today we are honoring...
Can't hear you, Mala. We can't hear you, Sylvia.
I'm not muted.
Just a second, want to make sure we hear you loud enough. Can you just try it one more time?
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Louder, we need you louder.
1, 2, 3.
A little bit louder. Are you max your microphone?
1, 2, 3.
Try it.
Sylvia, perhaps just come a little closer to your computer.
I am speaking into my...
That's better.
That's actually better. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay, awesome. So today we are honoring Rabbi Richard Hirsh for over 40 years of service to Darchei Noam. Today, several longtime congregants will speak about their connection with and their memories of Rabbi Hirsh and his family and his impact on Darchei Noam. First will be Phyllis Angel Greenberg. Next we'll have Toby Rose and Les Klein. And finally, Aaron Freeman. And after that, Rabbi Tina will speak and offer a blessing for Rabbi Hirsh, and Rabbi Hirsh will speak. And finally, towards the end of the service, we'll also hear from another longtime member, Jan Silverman, who has something to present on behalf of the congregation.
A
Apparently I am unmuted, so here I am. Hi, Richard. Hi, Barbara. Well, first I have to put on a different hat, and you have to imagine that I look very different, except I'm still wearing glasses, and I am now David friendly. So get that in your head. David is currently, I think, on a plane coming here for Rosh Hashanah. So he will be in shul to sound the shofar for us. So these are David's words. Hello, Richard and members of Darchei Noam. I'm David Friendly, and I've been honored to be asked to say a few words about Richard's history with the congregation since I was the president of Darchei Noam for 2 years in the late 70s. During that time, we discussed whether we could hire a rabbi. And I guess it comes down to, as Richard, who likes sports references, likes to say, a case of if you build it, they will come. When we started talking about hiring a rabbi living in the remotest area of Reconstructionism, we realized that we would not be big enough to be able to afford a rabbi, but we would never get big enough unless we had a rabbi. So a decision was made. Our membership being 25 families and 5 individuals, that if we hired a rabbi, we would grow. We were all young enough and naive enough to think this would happen. Well, was it naive? Because it did happen. By the time Richard left after his short stay in Canada of a little over a year, we were up to 80 households, and we could then sustain our goal and vision of having a full-time rabbi. And look where that's gotten us to now. So Richard, congratulations, and congregation Darchei Noam, congratulations on virtually a lifetime of connection and sharing, growth and building, and a lot of love and respect along the way. From David. Now, change masks. This is me, Richard. 40 years is a really long time. How is that possible? I met you when you came to interview. I won't harp on the think thin over the Torah in the diet workshop. There are so many anecdotes. You writing a Devar Torah on a paper napkin, I think, for Rebecca's bat mitzvah. The suit-ish situation at Jessica's bat mitzvah. At least you're laughing. Okay, you were laughing then also, but I want to be more serious. Richard, there are 2 people who formed me in a lot of ways, both of whom I respected and admired. More than 2 probably, but 2 that really stay with me to this very minute and into the future. One was my singing teacher, and the other is you. That is because you gave me a very special gift. You opened the door for me, but then you pushed me through it. I remember sitting in your living room just before you were, I don't know if you may have been even packing to leave. You sat me down, you said, I have to talk to you. I want to talk to you about your role in the services. You're singing a lot, but you're not actually leading the services. And I said, well, I don't know how to. A few years before that, when I was 30 years old, I asked people in Toronto to teach me to be a cantor. I really wanted to do this, and absolutely no one would teach a woman. My teacher asked around, she was highly connected. Nobody would teach a woman. Look where we are now. It's a completely different world 45 years later. But Richard, you said, this is a chatima. See this asterisk? That is where you pick things up again. It's not that I knew how to read Hebrew. I knew how to sing, but you showed me the structure. You showed me how I could do this. And I lacked confidence, but you gave me that confidence. Your belief in me doing this has been with me ever since. And I am not exaggerating for 1 single second. You're in my head all the time. This, I treasure our relationship, of course. Thank you for being such an important part of my life and my family's life. We've had many occasions to celebrate, some joyful, some mournful, and some funny, including many events in Philadelphia, in Chicago, and in Toronto. But I always think of your role in my spiritual life and in the area of my life that has given me and continues to give me purpose and meaning, even after I retired from teaching. Thank you, Richard, very much. I can't thank you enough for opening that door and making sure I went through it. I feel you pushing me there all the time.
Toby and I also met Richard and Barbara 40 years ago. We had been married the year before, and not having grown up in Toronto, we were seeking a synagogue to connect us to this Jewish community. Identifying ourselves as fervently liberal Jews, we had attended Darchei Noam's High Holiday services the year before at the JCC. We think that possibly because of that, we were invited to attend a salon evening to meet the prospective new rabbi the congregation was considering hiring. That evening, we instantly knew that we had found a home and a rabbi, ones that embodied our values of intellectual honesty and curiosity, of warmth, and of community.
We could have wandered for 40 years in the desert in search of our promised land, but instead we found our people, led by a kind, modest, well-spoken, funny man of letters, from whom we have learned 10 things about so much. Richard and Barbara, for 4 decades we have grown together, shared life's twists and turns, and reveled in all that life has had to offer. For all that, Tov and Shana Tova. May you be granted the full measure of 3 times 40 years to see all of the fruits of your labor.
The next speaker is Aaron Freeman, but I don't see him. Oh, you're in the sanctuary. Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. Hi, Richard and Barbara. And I have the honor of speaking on behalf of my family, and more than anything, I have the honor of being Richard and Barbara's friend. So the Freeman family met Richard when he and Barbara first arrived in Canada. A number of the families in the congregation helped them move into their new home. My parents, Harvey and Gilda, recall that it was winter. It was minus 10 degrees. Richard and Barbara got out of the car, having driven straight up from Philadelphia, but the truck with their belongings got stuck at the border. So we had to wait for the truck, and we had a chance to chat with Richard and Barbara and get to know them a little bit. I remember one thing I remember is Richard commenting on my oversized Greb Kodiak boots, which I thought was really cool. Over the next few months, our family spent a lot of time with Richard and Barbara. An outside observer, or maybe even Richard himself, would have probably considered this to be a test of whether this whole rabbi thing was something that he really and truly wanted. We could call it the Freeman trials, or maybe boot camp. In any event, it was probably not something that the Rabbinical College in Philadelphia taught him how to deal with. So I'm remembering a Shabbat dinner at our house shortly after Richard arrived. Now, Shabbat dinner at the Freeman house was not for the faint of heart. Conversations were lively and broad-reaching, and with 4 kids, flare-ups and temper tantrums were not uncommon. We were also prone to both natural and unnatural disasters. So we had a chandelier in the dining room with these large columns. People are cracking up. They already know where this is going. So these large glass columns that were like stalactites. Now you really know where this is going. So just as we're gathering around the table, one of these stalactites decides to launch itself into the glass plate that's sitting on the table, also made of glass, and shatter. So we're all standing around the table, and just quite randomly, this just explodes. We're all flabbergasted. And, it was sort of like, welcome to the congregation, Richard and Barbara. This is, So the following, I think it was the following dinner, which was to feature barbecue chicken. So the chicken catches fire on the barbecue. And there's a mushroom cloud of smoke that just erupts from the barbecue. And I can't recall what we ended up eating that night, but I'm sure that it was ordered in. It was probably, came in a box and was flat and round. So my sister Tamar and I used to fight often, and in those moments we're undeterred by matters of etiquette or protocol. And we're in a car riding with Richard, and Richard is placed in between us. I'm pretty sure that was strategic, the thinking being that that would, somehow deter conflict, as if. So, of course, that didn't happen. Tamara and I, according to accounts, fought over and through Richard for the entire car ride. Again, Richard's been in town for, I don't know, a few weeks at this point. So, I should also say that I have no actual direct recollection of this. This comes from my sister Shira. But I have no doubt whatsoever that it actually happened exactly the way that she described it, and that it was all Tamar's fault. So my own memories of those early days from when Richard arrived. Richard was one of the few adults who treated me like a full person. He never, ever spoke down to me or anyone else. And he genuinely wanted to know what I thought about things. And he was really one of the few adults that I knew who treated me like that, and who treated everyone like that. My sister Beth says that Richard was the first person she met who talked about religion in a way that fully accepted her views about not believing in a traditional God. My mom says that Richard never positioned himself atop some hierarchy in the congregation. He gave space for everyone. He facilitated, he channeled the energy in the community. On a very personal note, one of the things that Richard and I have talked about is the way that our friendship has evolved from me being a child in his congregation to us becoming friends as adults. And that friendship has always included our spouse and our kids. And my partner Aaron has noted that every time that we've had the pleasure of Richard and Barbara's company, we learn something new and insightful, and that is a very unique gift. So thank you, Richard and Barbara, for being such an important part of our lives and for helping build what Darchei Noam has become. We miss you, and we can't wait to see you again.
Switch.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm checking with David Lefkovich. Are we where we need to be, David?
In case you didn't see me, I'm doing thumbs up. Yes, you are where you need to be.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just seeing me. Hold on. Okay. Now I'm seeing all of you. So David, maybe you can split. Do you want to split screen? Or you want to leave it like this?
I will indiscriminately find other people to put up with you.
Okay. Yeah, you can do what I used to do on the high holidays. Don't look for the people who are sleeping. That's not fair. Okay. Anyway, Shabbat Shalom, friends. I very much appreciate the congregation making time for this small celebration in the context of preparing for the high holidays, and especially, in the context of, as Phyllis has pointed out over the summer a number of times in our conversations, rebooting for a third time how to navigate Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and COVID. Every year seems to bring different challenges. My hope and my prayer is that next year we'll have figured this all out in a way that we can be together. Anyway, I want to thank the folks who helped arrange this program this morning. That would be, my understanding is Leanne, Jan, and Kathy. If I've left someone out, my apology. And I'm also very grateful to Toby and Les, to Phyllis, to Aaron for representing the entire Freeman family and only telling a few of the stories. There are many more. And also to David Friendly for his kind contribution to this morning's program. These are sweet memories and very kind thoughts that you've shared. I also want to say that it's a pleasure to offer gratitude to my friend and my colleague, Rabbi Grimberg, who has always been so generous in her sharing of opportunities for me to contribute in some small and ongoing ways to Darchei Noam. It's been an honor to share the high holiday season with her for the past 2 decades. And I cannot think of another rabbi to rabbi relationship that is less characterized by ego issues or more characterized by mutual respect and deep affection than our relationship. So on this Shabbat morning, we've shared prayer and song and study, and Yasher Koach to Esther for a wonderful Devar Torah this morning. And I'm mindful not to delay the conclusion of the service with extended remarks. So I'm not going to tell you 10 things I learned about Teshuvah from 40 years with Darchei Noam, although I will be sharing 10 things I learned about Teshuvah on the second morning of Rosh Hashanah via Zoom. And you'll have to tune in to find out what the topic is for this year. I do simply want to note that according to the chronology of character that's recorded in the Mishnah, the age of 40 or arba'im is reckoned as the age of binah, normally translated as wisdom, but better rendered as discernment. Discernment is the ability to parse nuance and to see shadings of meaning, to identify what is worthy of our sustained and durable attention. Discernment is the harvested wisdom of years of experience and of sharing, from which we learn what is truly valuable, what really matters, and what, and more importantly, whom has earned our commitment. The age of discernment is when we're able to release the false binaries of youth that so often only see black and white, and we exchange them for the mature embracing of the value of living in the zone of gray. Now, in 1981, when I was 28 years old, nurturing nuance and taking the long view, they were not big parts of my rabbinic toolbox. In fact, I took David Friendly at his word when, as president of Darchei Noam, he wrote in my initial contract letter that I still have that, quote, now that the shul would have a full-time resident rabbi, he looked forward to finally settling many of the unresolved issues of policy and practice with which any young congregation lives, unquote. So during my first 2 years at Darchei Noam, that's what I thought I should do. I should settle things. And I tried to do that. Despite Gilda's generous rememberings, I often did that unilaterally, frequently without explanation, and with very little appreciation for gray. The bumps that came along with that stage of being a rabbi are perhaps largely forgotten by the congregation after 4 decades, but any rabbi will tell you we never forget them. And so it's never too late to offer an apology for them, especially as the month of Elul comes to an end. But now, after 41 years of rabbinic work, I think I've finally gotten it mostly figured out. Learning to be a mature rabbi is a long and often slow learning curve. To do it well, a rabbi needs a significant collective other, a partner over time who reliably and responsibly provides feedback, insight, critique, and appreciation. And I am so grateful to the community of Darchei Noam for being that long-term partner for me. You folks are my significant collective other. For the past 24 years in particular, you have annually invited me to dig into the rich traditions about Teshuvah and bring something meaningful to share with the congregation. So each summer I open my sermon files and I trace the records of topics and themes that I've discussed with you during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur going back to 1998. Tracing that evolution tells me and teaches me something about the paths that I've journeyed on, Jewishly, personally, and professionally, in this nearly quarter century of celebrating this season together. But it also tells me something about the collective identity of this community and the path it has traveled, Jewishly, spiritually, rabbinically, and organizationally over these same years. At each high holiday season, those paths intersect again. We have a chance to catch up on the past year, sharing personal, familial, and professional changes, and renewing both long-standing friendships and celebrating those that we have formed more recently. But equally important, we return to this holy season each year to explore again some of the deepest streams of Jewish spiritual thought about personal and interpersonal growth and change, as Esther explicated earlier so elegantly. So this is what it means to me to have reached the age of Binah, 40 years of relationship with Congregation Darchei Noam. I am grateful for our having evolved from debating what divides us into celebrating what we share and treasure together. I'm grateful to have discerned how to value what really matters. And that comes from a precision sharpened by years of our conversations, and with the resonant affection that arises from the deep and long series of relationships that our family has been able to forge with our friends in Toronto. I continue to appreciate that together we engage the continually unfolding and often still surprising richness of our shared Jewish legacy. And I am grateful to be able to cushion the inevitable advance of aging with the caring comfort of a community of people with whom so much love has been shared over these decades. I hope that our time together has made us all better caretakers, teachers, and students of our sacred Jewish legacy. To all of my friends at Darchei Noam, I thank you for making me a wiser and more discerning rabbi than I could ever have imagined becoming 40 years ago. May we continue to share our lives in good health, with deep caring, with much appreciation for the blessings we have been to each other. Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova.
I would so much like to reach out and just hold you. So this is the best we can do, but this is pretty good. And so is Barbara there as well next to you, Richard? She's coming back. I just want to make sure that I see both of you on the screen when I see, and I know, right? Oh, there you go. That's what I wanted. So not long, but I don't think there is a rabbi or frankly anyone who learns that Jewish text, our text, that would avoid quoting Pirkei Avot. Rabbis have collected these marvelous sayings and codified them, and they're very often wrote to one another, for one another. And there are two things that are well familiar to all of you and quoted often. And that is deep and very necessary suggestion to an individual or another rabbi is that we should find a rabbi, a selech rav. find one. And without mentors, who are we? We cannot possibly grow. And what does that mean to make yourself, a mentor or a rabbi? He says, well, when you learn, actually, the fit doesn't have to be perfect, but when you begin to learn, you exchange ideas. And what it means is you start with Torah, and then when you discuss Mishnah, you can then make corrections and more expansion on the Torah, and then if you do, then you continue on with the Talmud, and then you can make corrections and hear each other words on the text you studied before. And from there comes the depth of the relationship. And the exchange of ideas sharpens you, expands you, deepens you. 20 years ago, Richard, I was a new rabbi at Darchei Noam, and with warm embrace from you and Barbara, I felt that I could truly lean on the shoulders of a wise, non-judgmental, deeply caring human being and ask necessary questions. But more than that, your warmth and your deep affection for my family allowed me to blossom and to grow. Without profound kindness, mentorship would have been impossible. And you expanded me. You knew this community nearly from its genesis. You have deepened for me this understanding. And it is your generosity of spirit that allowed me that openness to be able to now stand in a place of potential of based my teaching and my embrace to the next generation that is coming in at Darchei Noam. So it is from teacher to other teachers. And that is the way we love, expand, and make our tradition alive. And in that partnership, Kach lecha chaver, the text also says, you have a teacher, but also get yourself a friend, create a friend. Richard, teacher, you are. But above and deep in all, you are an extraordinary friend. You have that marvelous ability to withhold an opinion while I'm bursting with expressions. And then in a soft and firm way, render beautifully tailored opinion, the one I needed so desperately to hear. That allowed me to be better in everything I've done, from being a rabbi, to being a mother, to being a wife, to being a friend. Beautifully, text is explained, Kach lecha chaver, is that you actually, Rambam says, should live with the teacher and watch them, a teacher and a friend, watch them, the way they act, the way they eat, the way they speak. And you yourself will become a better person as a result of these exchanges. Rambam directs its thoughts to a very, very particularly intimate relationship between the two entities of two friends. And I would like to recall just 3 things that I've shared with you and Barbara. One is you growing right beside me when my voice was trembling and you took over a reading in the wake of a loss during high holidays. And I still remember your strength standing next to me. You were a rabbi, but you were a friend. And then there is this marvelous moment of arriving to your son's wedding and watching you waiting for David and I in this lovely little home we shared for several days. You wouldn't go to bed till you knew we were in. And I saw you from the car, getting up, reclining, but getting up from the sofa to run to the door to greet us. Since Our parents are gone. There are very few people who actually stay up for you. Actually run to the door to make sure you arrived safely. And to see that movement of you in a white t-shirt to assuring our warmth and arrival will stay with me and will allow me that movement and energy to offer to others as well. You're supposed to watch your friend because you learn from your friend. In things they do, you can do as well and do better than you used to do them. And then there is this moment when you sit with Barbara at my dining room table, and absentmindedly and gently you will reach out and touch her hair and leave your hand on her shoulder. That moment, Shekhinah is present. The world is not a lonely place, and it's filled with intellect, kindness, spirit, laughter, wit, and warmth. May God give you and Barbara many years of goodness, of health, of seeing your grandchildren grow into adulthood. And may we continue to learn, to love, to laugh. And I consider myself profoundly fortunate, not only finding a mentor, a rabbi, but with that, finding an incredible friend. I love both of you. Shabbat Shalom. We continue. I have nice outlines here, just a second. Their mastery. I think it's blessing for Israel community. And before we put our Torah away, done. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask Mark to come forward again. And Robin, would you do the breastplate and crowns while we offer this blessing? I'll ask the congregation to please rise in body or spirit as we offer these mission berets. Do you want to put the crowns on and the breastplate? Over there. Thank you. Sur Yisrael v'go'alo. Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel and all her inhabitants with the courage and strength to pursue peace and equality. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Send your light and wisdom to Israel's leaders and judges, and to those who elect and appoint them, guiding them with your good counsel and aligning them with your spirit of justice and kindness. Grant peace in the land and in the region, fulfillment of her people's hopes and joy for all who dwell there. V'simchat olam v'yoshveya v'nomar. Amen. Receive with compassion our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Bless the rich tapestry of Canada that we may know the blessings of unity and inclusion. May we strive for true reconciliation and justice for all people within our borders. May our country be an influence for good within the family of all nations, helping to bring peace, justice, and freedom and an end to strife for all. Bless this congregation as we discover the love of Torah, devotion and prayer, the rewards of tzedakah, the joy of community, and the gift of diversity. Bless all who enter this place and this space of worship, that the kavanah here may be worthy of the greatness and love that is godliness, and that all who seek your presence here may find it. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
We are going to return our
We remain standing as we continue on page 433. Yahalelo et Shema Adonai, ki niskav Shemo levado, hodo al eretz v'shamahayim, vayaharem keheren le'amo, tehila lechol, Chasidav livanei Yisroel am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Page 441. Uvnu choyomar כי לכך טוב נתתי לכם תורתי תעזבו, עץ חיים למחזיקים בו ותומכיה מאושר, דרכיה דרכי נועם וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם. And we remain standing as we turn to page 445, and Lenka will lead us in the Aleinu.
שנתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נותק שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו ואין עוד, אמת מלכנו וזולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום שבאת אל לבביך, Page 449. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
And at this moment, we remember. In reciting the Kaddish, we affirm our awareness of holiness in our world. Much of our experience of divine goodness, grace, and love has come to us through those whose lives have touched our own. Lenka Lichtenberg remembers her stepfather, Otto Gregor. Anne Steinberg remembers her mother, Diana Badanis. Linda Patton remembers her mother, Goldie Jackson. Michael Brotman remembers his mother, Pauline Brotman. Simon Shapiro remembers his mother, Sybil Shapiro. Sarah Gladstone remembers her father, Alex Gladstone. Lee Copeland remembers his father, Howard Copeland. Cheryl Smolkin remembers her father, Julia Smolkin. Ed Segalovitz remembers his father, Kalman Segalovitz. Sylvia Green remembers her father, Mitchell Green. Pamela Glass remembers her father, Morley Glass. Lori Burke remembers her father, Robert Burke. Gilda Grossman remembers her brother, Jack Harvey Grossman. Leslie Palmer remembers her brother, Jeffrey Schaefer. Shulamit Moore remembers her brother, Tzvi Rosenberg. Julie Foreman Kay and Louis Kay are mourning the loss of their mother and mother-in-law, Vivian Foreman. Donna Hoppenheim is mourning the loss of her sister, Anne Cookie Hoppenheim. Janina Lasky, Solomon Minkan, Cassie Sakura are mourning the loss of their mother, sister, and sister-in-law, Rosa Lasky. Renata Krakow is mourning the loss of her husband, Hank Lobenberg. May as those who observe Yortzeit and mourners rise. Those of you who are on Zoom, you're welcome to unmute and move yourself a little bit away from the mic as we recite Kaddish Yatom. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba. Balma divrach v'yamlik malchutei. B'chayuchon v'yomechon b'chayei tekobi. B'galau b'zman karivimhu. Yehei shmei Rabba maborach le'olam amen maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipara v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'talal shmei l'kudusha b'rechu le'elam mikol kol birchata b'shirata tushbachata b'nechamata tamira v'yimhu. Amen. Yeshlam Rabba Mishmaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimhu. Amen. Oseh shalom b'immu. V'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Amen. May the one who creates harmony above make peace for us and for all Israel and for all who dwell on earth. And let us say, I'm going to ask Jen Silverman to... Oh, one second. Jen, just give me a moment. Actually, we're going to do closing song, and then we're going to do presentation, and then board announcement. So if you can just take a seat, Lenka is ready to give us, I think after Kaddish, song is a good thing. So let's do a song, and then we're going to hear from you. Jen, thank you. You're right here.
For the closing song, I choose a Yiddish song that's both a nigun and a song, and it commemorates both Shabbat, Shabbos, and the upcoming holiday, which is Yontef in Yiddish. So I will ask you to sing along with me if you are so inclined. And you as well, Rob.
Standing here on this very special day in front of the Darchei Noam community, I smile and remember a very young, very dark-haired, very dark-bearded rabbi standing in a room at the JCC and offering his first high holiday teachings. It was clear, at least to this woman, who was also very young and very dark-haired, and I know for the others that were also present, that something very extraordinary was happening. It was a relationship in the making. The fluidity of relationships is quite remarkable. We grow, we learn, and our relationships reflect this movement. We move together and we move apart, we move back together. And if we are lucky, the bonds grow, deepen, and strengthen, as does the mutual respect and admiration. I believe this is reflective of our 40 years with Rabbi Hirsh. It is therefore a great honor to present a virtual gift to our virtual and somewhat virtuous friend and rabbi, Richard Hirsh. Now, you may notice there is nothing in my hands right now. So let me tell you that we have commissioned a piece of art by our congregant and a dear friend of Rabbi Richard and Barbara Hirsch's, Yael Brotman. Yael is an award-winning artist who has exhibited worldwide. She is currently in the UK presenting a lecture. Before leaving, however, she let us know that her piece focuses on members of a growing family and the love that connects them. I will add her unique art is alive with color, textures, and layers. It is much like our relationship with Rabbi Hirsh, alive with color, alive with textures, and layers of sharing life, time, and experiences together. So, on behalf of the congregation, we thank you for all you have been to us and for all you have meant to us. We have learned so much from you. Truthfully, your erudite teachings may have led some of us to our dictionaries. No doubt your alliterations and wordplay have amazed and delighted, but more importantly, they have led us to a greater and fuller understanding of Reconstructionist thought. May our relationship continue to grow, and may we continue to learn from one another and with one another. Toda Rabba, Richard and Barbara.
Sylvia, I think it's you and Zoom, and we'd love to hear from you, board announcements. There you go. We can't hear you, dear.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to say Shabbat Shalom, first of all. Thank you, Jan and Aaron and Toby and Les and Phyllis and in absentia David Friendly for your beautiful words about Rabbi Hirsh. I want to say Shabbat Shalom, and that I will not be delivering traditional board announcements this morning. Instead, I'm here to wish you Shana Tova Umtuka, a good and sweet new year on behalf of the board, and also to tell you about a change we're making. So one of the themes that emerged very strongly from our recent survey, which we thank you for participating in if you did, was that our traditional board announcements were not serving us very well as a congregation. So at the most recent board meeting, it was decided that we are going to be eliminating the standard announcements, and we'll continue the board presentations to B'nai Mitzvot, but the standard announcements, we're not going to do that anymore. But you will see board members participating in other ways instead. We're still gathering ideas and considering what exactly that will look like. And of course, you'll still find all the information on services and programs and simchas and so forth in what's on and in abbreviated form on your Shabbat sheet. So with that, let's move on to Kiddush. Shabbat Shalom.
And I will ask you to rise, please. We are on page 465, and we'll join together. V'shamaro v'nei Yisroel et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'reit olam b'nei uvein b'nei Yisrael nati le'olam nati le'olam hodi le'olam v'shamru v'nei Yisroel et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'reit ki sheshet yamim ngasa Adonai Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz v'shamru v'nei Yisroel et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'reit uvayom hashvi shavat v'inafash Shavat v'inafash shavat v'inafash v'shamaro v'nei Yisroel et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'reit al kebed acharona et yom ha-Shabbat v'yikadsheho Chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, barei barei gogofen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom v'Shana Tova.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome to our virtual Kiddush, where we can chat a little bit amongst ourselves. And for this facilitation, I invite Judy to take over.
Shabbat Shalom, and thank you, David. And thank you, David, for your masterful work this morning, split screening and back and forth and all the rest to enable everybody to participate in this beautiful Shabbat service, and especially to the tribute to Rabbi Hirsh and to Barbara. And welcome, Rabbi Hirsh and Barbara. It's so lovely to see you here at the Kiddush. And I am sure that there will be quite a few people who will want to greet you, but I would like to use my prerogative as the host of this Kiddush to ask the two of you to open the Kiddush and to say a few words if you'd like to. So please unmute yourselves, and Rabbi and Barbara, and please go ahead.
Thanks, Judy. Shabbat shalom to everyone. It's lovely to see you folks. We're trying to like stay focused on you and not keep swiping the screen. So it was a lovely Shabbat morning. It's a wonderful way to wrap up the month of Elul and anticipate the arrival of Tishrei. I want to thank Sylvia especially for being so gracious in hosting us this morning and jumping around the calendar.
The Callicans did already.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's just Saul. We've learned, over 40 years we recognize the voices, so it's fine. When Zoom first started with Darchei Noam in March of 2020, as some of you may remember, we could tell who hadn't figured out mute just by listening to their voices. Anyway, we don't want to take up a lot of time. We'd like to just mention to you, we are just returned on Thursday from a week and a day in Seattle with our son and his wife and their new son, who's 6 weeks old yesterday. His name is Amitai Yakir. He is our new grandson. We're kind of thrilled and a little bit exhausted from 9 days of hanging out with the baby, sleepless parents, and two very active dogs. But we had a great time with them, and we took the red eye home Wednesday night. I sleep on the red eye, Barbara does not. So she's still sort of catching up, but we wish everyone a Shana Tova. I'm glad we're able to participate with you remotely in some small way this year. Again, my appreciation to Rabbi Grimberg for arranging that. So I'll look forward to sharing some teachings with you on the second morning of Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur morning and during the Yom Kippur afternoon study session. So Shabbat Shalom and a happy and healthy new year to each of you.
And I'll just add, it's just so sweet to see so many familiar faces. It's been, hard for us to have to stay away for these COVID years. So seeing your faces is really, really sweet.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much. And thank you for staying on in the Kiddush. I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to speak. But I again will exercise my prerogative and ask Leanne and Howell if they would like to say something as part of the organizing committee for today's event. So Leanne, would you like to say something? Please unmute.
Yes, I've unmuted. It was a pleasure working with Jan and Kathy on such a wonderful event. Really an honor. And I'm assuming Jan is still here. Oh, no, Jan's in the shul. Jan did a wonderful, wonderful job. I wanted to congratulate her. And Richard and Barbara, just Mazal Tov on, well, I've already been in touch, but Mazal Tov again on both of your happy events. You must be just over the moon. And Richard, of course, you spoke wonderfully, and it's just a pleasure to get a little extra, in a way, a little extra Devar Torah from you ahead of the holidays, but we look forward to seeing you in a few days. So Mazel Tov.
It's lovely, and Yasher Koach, Leanne. Ron and Debbie have been waiting very patiently, so thank you for that. Please unmute yourselves, and then Linda and Danny are next.
Go ahead. Hello, Richard, Barbara. Mazel Tov on becoming a Zaidi and Bubi. You're in our shoes. We are great-grandparents, but Mazel Tov and Shana Tova. It's great to see you. I would have preferred to see you in person, but that will come, I hope. And thanks again for all your 10 lists.
Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, and Simcha Tov on all these wonderful events for you guys. We're just very excited about it. And I want to thank you for growing from the time when I was quite young, in my 40s, to now, when I'm a little bit older, but I still appreciate everything that you do and everything that you say, Richard. It's very, very important to us. And also for Barbara to see you again is also very important with us, to us. So Mazel Tov, Bubi, Zadie, and many, many more.
Thank you so much. Thank you both of you. Shabbat Shalom. To the parents and great-grandparents, not just grandparents. Linda and Danny, please go ahead.
Shabbat Shalom. And it's a very special occasion to be able to celebrate Richard's 40th year with us, since I do go back to days before that, as do Ron and Debbie. I also saw Rabbi Joy Levitt on the screen a moment ago, and Rabbi Joy is one of our very first rabbis way back in history, when Joy was a very young rabbi, or maybe a rabbinical student at the time. So it's just wonderful to be able to remember and to celebrate with people that are such veterans of this wonderful community. So Shabbat Shalom.
I wasn't around, Rabbi Hirsh, when you were our rabbi, but I've certainly benefited in the last 24 years from your involvement in the high holidays, and I've always found it so illuminating and educational and warm and wonderful. So thank you so much for coming back every year, and we hope to catch you this year. And Mazel Tov on becoming grandparents. This is your first grandchild? Oh, you're going to love it. It's the best thing in the world. So enjoy.
Thanks, Linda. What people have told us is we just joined the best club in the world.
It's true. It's true.
It's beautiful. Thank you very much. Debbie and Dave can't raise their hands because Dave is the host. So I'm calling on Debbie and Dave, and then Friedel will be after that.
Richard, Barbara, it's just, first of all, so wonderful to share this Shabbat together. And we are just relative newbies. We've only known you for 25 plus years. So with our being the babies of the privilege of knowing you, studying with you, and it's been a gift of time. We miss you.
Oh.
He's left the building.
Rabbi Joy.
There you are. I thought, where did you go? Your screen moved. You've enriched our lives so deeply, and I speak for ourselves, but the whole congregation is going to just shower you with similar love. And I just want to give you an update that the Holiday Inn is officially demolished. It's a huge pit. We really look forward to the Rosh Hashanah when you are back in Toronto and have to stay somewhere other than the Holiday Inn. We look forward to having Yontif meals with you and studying, and may your years ahead as grandparents just be filled with total joy and happiness. You are deeply missed here this year.
Debbie, thank you. We, David, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but a year, I guess maybe a year and a half ago, Jan was going past the Yorkdale Shopping Center, and she snapped a photo of the Holiday Inn in the final stage of demolition. Since we'd stayed there like for the last 15 years, that was really traumatic. And I flirted with doing a sermon on 10 things I learned about Teshuvah from the Holiday Inn, but I was afraid it might be taken the wrong way.
No, I don't think so. I think we're looking forward to hearing it.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe next year. David, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just going to echo Debbie's words, and all I can say to add to that is just my personal joy at seeing you, the inspiration you give me and all of us in everything you bring, especially on the more personal front in the last few years as we've become closer with you and Barbara, which is just a joy, and I'm so enriched by you both. Thank you, and thank you.
Oh, sitting here and filling. Thank you very much, everyone. We have quite a few people who want to speak, so thank you, everyone, for your patience. Friedel, please go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, I really I want to speak with you with so much love. You've made a big difference in our lives. Your insights, your humor, your willingness to destroy old shibboleths with wonderful humor. I have loved that so much. But I'm aching to see a picture of your grandchild. Surely, as new grandparents, you can show us one picture. Is it, do you have one?
We're gonna let Barbara's gonna find it on her computer. She'll put it up on her screen, and at an appropriate moment, David, if you can make Barbara a co-host, she can screen share that in a couple of minutes when she finds
so
the right picture. We have a lot of pictures.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing that. Helen, you're up next. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Again, like so many other people, it's a question of trying to decide how to begin to thank you for so much, Richard and Barbara. I want to say one thing, and that's, I love when Jan was talking about how young we all were, and Phyllis, you know, I remember my own naivety because as some people may not remember, but I'm sure you do, Richard, I was treasurer when you were hired. And I had inherited a box of papers for Mitchell. I see Laurel on there. Mitchell was treasurer before me. I thought treasurer was just kind of like filing the papers. So I didn't realize that your livelihood depended on it. So it was a learning time for me too. And Paul, who's sitting beside me, wanted to also recall the fact that there must have been something about barbecue chicken, because when we tried to barbecue a chicken for you, it was raw. And so we ordered in as well. The one other thing that I want to say, and I don't know if Joy is still on, is that it's, you know, having all of these years together means that we have, you know, as they say, from generation to generation. And something so special has happened in our own lives in the last number of years. When my daughter was born, when Rebecca was born in 1979, I phoned Joy from the hospital because I wanted her to know about, I had just seen her several weeks before, and I really wanted her to know about Becca's birth. And now we've had the joy, the pleasure, the honor of having Richard teach and assist and help our son-in-law, Becca's husband, convert to Judaism. And it was a great honor for them and a great honor for us. So thank you for that as well.
That's lovely. Wow. So many layers of richness over these years at Darchei Noam. So beautiful to hear. So Saul, I'm not sure if you wanted to speak. Did you want to speak, Saul? And if you did, please unmute yourself, and then Laurel will follow you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Judy. I guess I don't understand all this new technology, so I didn't know how to raise my hand. Anyway, Linda and I certainly are very appreciative of everything that that has happened over the years, and that and particularly that that Richard has done for us. But there's two little memories. First one, we had joined in the fall of 1981. So Richard was already the rabbi here. And then in early 1982, Linda's father passed away. And we were sitting Shiva in our home. And Richard said, and actually I think it's in the spare time, he was working with the Hillel group at the University of Toronto. And he said, we have a Torah here. Would you like to have it for your Shiva service? And we did accept. And fortunately, our two eldest daughters, Jennifer and Miriam, knew how to read Torah. So we had Torah readings both on the Monday and Thursday services. I've never been to a Shiva since where there's been a Torah present. The second memory is a little less serious. When we were moving from our old facilities at the B'nai B'rith building to our new sanctuary, the process, of course, is to carry all the Torahs in a procession leading from the old synagogue to the new synagogue. And I was sort of walking just behind Richard and Mitch Rothman. And Mitch said, "Richard, did you ever think we'd be in this position?" And without blinking an eyelash or eye, Richard said, "Yes, I could see us out on the street." So it was really very, very amusing. And both of those memories are with us for a long time. So Richard, hopefully we will be together many, many times for many, many years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Mazal Tov, Richard and Barbara. It's a wonderful experience, and we have benefited so much from our relationship with you over the years. And I believe you conducted the funeral service for my father, and I believe it was the first funeral that you had done as a rabbi. And that has stayed with us, and the many blessings that you have given the congregation and the wonderful teachings and enthusiasm and energy that you've brought to this congregation. Thank you both.
Well,
Thanks, and then some.
beautiful. Thank you very much.
Judy, we're ready to screen share.
Beautiful.
Oh, lovely.
Now, would you like to see the baby's face?
Okay, I'll have to stop.
Hold on.
This.
He's coming.
Coming.
Aww.
There you go. Okay.
Beautiful, just beautiful. Thanks so much for taking the effort and time to share like that with us. It's beautiful. Thank you.
You have to twist our arm.
Laurel, please go ahead.
Hi, I should say that Mitchell is actually en route from Shul home, so that's why you're not seeing him at the moment. So many wonderful things have been said. So I guess I'll first say Mazel Tov on becoming grandparents. I know you know how much fun and hard work and challenge it'll be to manage coast to coast, but you'll do it and it'll work and it'll be great. Hopefully all will be well. I just want to thank you for many years of learning, friendship, caring. Few little things come to mind. I forgot about the Hillel part till somebody just said it, but that's why you used to sometimes ride on your bicycle to our house. I remember that. I remember chats over lunch after high holidays. And then I remember we were in, our daughter now kind of and family live in Philadelphia, and we've made connections there. And lo and behold, at the bris of our, I think it was our second grandson, I have a message on Richard's line that you and Barbara were out of town. I thought, okay, maybe we'll see, maybe we won't. Don't you know, he was there that minute. So what can we say except looking forward to continued learning together. You always made things understandable and accessible and particularly interesting and engaging. So thanks to both of you and hoping to continue the relationships.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thanks, Laurel.
Beautiful. Thank you. Meyer, I think you're up next, and then perhaps I will ask La Presidenta, Sylvia, if she wants to wrap up, and we will all wish each other Shabbat Shalom, because I see that the time is going ahead. As much as we would love to spend the whole afternoon, I think we need to give Richard and Barbara a chance to have lunch. So Meyer, please go ahead, and then Sylvia, if you wouldn't mind closing off for us.
Good Shabbos to all for myself and for Gail, who's off screen but within listening range. What a special day and what a special relationship Gail and I feel, the whole congregation feels for both Richard, you of course, and Barbara. One of the things that stands out for me is the imminence over all these years of both of your with family arrival in Toronto for Chagim. It was kind of like an annual reconnect and chance for renewal in its own right. Like there was something very special about the Chagim because we knew it was going to be enriched by that reconnection and that possibility, which inevitably was fulfilled, for renewed growth. My system is telling me I'm on reduced battery. I may fade any time. So I'll just say a couple of quick things, hopefully before the battery does me in. One is a huge thank you to the shul leadership and the committee who organized today's event. It was really, really well done by everyone. So thank you for that. Gail and I had the great pleasure of having both you, Barbara, and Richard over at our home. And after hearing what I've heard today, am I ever glad we never had chicken on the menu? It would not have gone well, is my hunch. So I think we dodged a bullet on that one. But Richard and Barbara, we've learned from you, we've laughed with you, we've grown, we've shared challenges together. You are very deep in our hearts, and we love you and your family, and yesha koach to both of you.
Thanks, Meyer. I expected a quotation from Bob Dylan, but I'll take what you said.
I was channeling the man.
Thank you, Meyer, and thank you, Meyer's battery. Sylvia, you're up next to close, and then we will all unmute and say Shabbat Shalom together to one another as we do every week. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I don't know Richard and Barbara as well as many of you do because 40 years ago I was 8 and did not live in Toronto. But I certainly, like many people, my path to joining Darchei Noam began by attending High Holiday services. And one of the wonderful features of High Holiday services is you can hear from 2 different rabbis at Darchei Noam, and they bring sort of different perspectives and different approaches and different angles. And but a unity in terms of a warm, welcoming, and very, very smart and wise presence. And the one thing that I will always remember and be thankful for as a disability advocate is that you were the first person to introduce me to the phrase, please rise in body or spirit. And that's so valuable and such a lovely gesture of inclusion, and I really appreciate it. And thank you to Leanne and Jan and Kathy for organizing this lovely tribute and for inviting me to be part of it, because I appreciate that very much. And Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova to everyone. May we all have a happy, healthy, good, and sweet new year.
Thank you very much. And a big thank you to everyone who participated in this beautiful Kiddush today, and especially to Richard and Barbara. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a real sort of icing on the cake. And I just wanted to, if we can all unmute, and on the count of 3, Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova. 1, 2, 3.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
And Meyer, I recognize you now. Meyer, I recognize you now with your haircut.
Bye, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Shana Tova.
Shabbat Shalom.